Hey guys, it's Sasha here with my next Mechwarrior online video, and for this one I thought I'd do something very basic. I'm going to talk about arming your mech basically and setting up weapon groups. The reason I'm doing this is, although most of you will think that this is probably redundant, is that I ran into somebody ran into a problem with that the other night on TeamSpeak. He turned out that had been playing the game for quite a while now, and he'd never actually bothered setting up his weapon groups or even grouping his weapons, besides the grouping that the game would provide on its own, I suppose. I don't know how he did it, but we had to talk him through it over TeamSpeak, and that's kind of hard to do, if you can't demonstrate it to somebody on the screen. It's pretty easy when you can do that, when you can demonstrate, but if you have to talk him through what the blinking lights on the weapons list mean, it's kind of tough. So I thought, I'd do a video on it. Okay, let's start by by talking about what you shouldn't do, in my opinion. What you shouldn't do is, or no, let me rephrase that. What you should do, your maximum number of weapon groups that you should aim for, in my opinion at least, is 3. Anything more than 3 weapon groups is just too confusing, and it'll give you it'll give you knots in your fingers, I suppose. And once you get into it, it might work in offline mode when you're testing everything. And I don't care what you're using as an input device. It's just a question of, I guess, mental resources or whatever you want to call it. Don't make it too hard on yourself, because if you're in offline testing mode, everything is a little bit more relaxed, and you can think more clearly because nobody's shooting back at you. Targets aren't moving. Make it as easy for yourself as possible is my advice. So I would say ideally you should only have 2 weapon groups actually, but three is manageable, especially when the third one is just missiles, because you don't really have to aim anything. At least that's how I do it. Slight warning before we start this, so before we go any further. I'm a lefty, so I've set up my weapon groups a little differently maybe, and my keys a little differently maybe, so your mileage may vary there if you're a right-handed person and have access to more keys with your left hand while you're playing. But still, even though I'm a lefty, I think what I'm about to say does apply to everybody. Okay, like I said before, let's start with what you shouldn't be doing, in my opinion. This is my Atlas K here, and I just ripped out my standard build and rebuild it in a way that I would never use it, but it's just for demonstrating purposes, As you can see, I'm running, in this freakish build, I'm running an ER large laser in my right arm. I'm running a machine gun in my right torso in the ballistic slot. I'm running an LRM-15 launcher in the left slot, left side torso, sorry. And I'm running an ER PPC in my left arm, plus I have a medium pulse laser and a small laser in the center torso. And I know it looks weird, but I've seen builds like this, with basically weapons that don't complement each other, with weapons that all have different ranges, and way too many weapons to put into 3 weapon groups. So in this case, I don't want to save this one because I don't, oh well, let's save it. Hang on. Yeah, this takes a while. Oh my god. Okay, as you can see, I got a real laundry list now of weapons here. I got a small laser, ER PPC, well, AMS, we're going to ignore that, LRM-15, I got an ER large. So basically, I would need to set up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably 6 weapon groups to fire everything here. So this is what you shouldn't do, right? Because not only do your weapons, the ranges not correspond with each other, but also you have way too many weapons on this thing to be able to control them all efficiently once the crap hits the fan. So I'm just going to stop this part of the video for now and rebuild this Atlas, and then I'll show you what I do run in this thing and how I think you should run it. And we're back. Okay, this is, well, this is not my final build really. I'm still playing around with this Atlas, but since I don't play it that much now that I have it mastered, it doesn't really matter. I don't think I'll change this. It's a pretty much a standard build for any Atlas. A squatty of mine pointed me towards it, and well, he pointed me towards it at the same time I discovered it for myself. It doesn't sound like much, but it's pretty effective. What I have here is 1 AR PPC in this arm, 1 AR PPC in the other arm. I didn't put anything in the center torso, which some people will probably cry no to, because, you know, zombie atlases and all that, meaning people will tend to shave off your side torsos and then you're useless. You can avoid this at least a little bit in this atlas, because it does have 2 slots on the center torso, which would still be able to give you some offensive capability, even though your side torsos would be gone. But hey, the missile slots are empty. There's just heat sinks in there. And on the right side, we have a Gauss rifle and case. So, since I ungrouped all my weapons beforehand, I'll just jump into the game and we'll set up the weapon groups in there. Okay, sorry about that. I got a little confused there myself. I switched to the DDC because simply because I use more than 2 different types of weapons on it, and I can demonstrate my philosophy of maximum of 3 weapon groups in it better. Okay, as you can see, I run 2 ER large lasers on this thing. They're both in the arms, left and right. I run a Gauss rifle in the right torso, and I have 3 streak missile launchers in the left torso for close-in defense. I also run 1 AMS, and of course the ECM module, without which this Atlas would pretty much be pointless. Anyhow, as you can see, I've ungrouped all my weapons here, because see that's the selector I'm moving around here. Everything's blank, nothing is grouped yet. Well, since there seem to be some people out there who've never played a Mechwarrior game and who don't have an idea how to actually do this, let's just start with the basics. What you do is you have this list here on the right, bottom right of the screen, and it shows you all the weapons you have currently loaded into your mech. There's 2 subgroups in this list. As you can see, the top 2 weapons have this. I wish I had a mouse pointer now. The top 2 weapons have that circle icon next to them on the left, and the bottom 1, 2, 3, 4, in this case, have the little crosshair, which means that the first 2 weapons, ones with the circle, are mounted in your arms and will shoot where the circle icon is pointing. You can see right here, I've just unlocked my arms. As you can see, I have 2 crosshairs while I'm doing this. I have the one that's, you know, the traditional crosshair is where the torso is pointing, and the circle crosshair, so to speak, is where my arms are currently pointing. This is useful when you know, in a slow mech and you're getting circled to death, circle of death by a light mech. You can keep him under fire for longer. It's also a good idea when you're grouping weapons to make sure that the weapons in your arms, meaning the ones that are, you know, will follow the circular crosshair, are in the same group, or in a different group than the other weapons that are torso mounted, so that you'll know that you'll be able to fire all the weapons that follow the circular crosshair at the same time without having to fire any of the other weapons which wouldn't hit. Or would hit a different location, if that makes any sense. Anyhow, let's start by grouping. The default keys for this, for moving the selector that you can see here, that I'm moving right now, up, down, left, right, I think are the cursor keys. I remapped them because I use the cursor keys for body movement, since, you know, I'm a lefty. The other 2 functions you'll need are select weapon, which is the right control key, if I remember correctly, by default, and you'll need the function to switch between chain fire and group fire, which is backspace by default. Okay, what you do here, and this is how I run my weapons on this mech, let's put the 2 ER large lasers in the arms. Let's put those in weapon group 1. So we move the selector to the first ER large laser, to weapon group 1, which is this here, and then we set it up. And as you can see, the first laser is now in weapon group 1, and when I press the fire button for weapon group 1, it'll fire. Okay. Now we take the second ER large laser, press right control, and it's in there. Now, right now, these two weapons are set to group fire, meaning if I press they're both mapped to the group now, and if I press the trigger for this group now, they will both fire at the same time, as you can see. The problem with this is, of course, that this will increase your heat substantially. Plus, it's probably a good idea to be able to fire them one at a time, because you're never sure if that shot you're taking really hits. So you want to be able to correct and fire off another shot right after the first one that might have missed. So what we do is we set it to chain fire. For that, we simply select weapon group 1, left, right here, that column, and then we press backspace. And as you can see now, that little black square is dripping down from top to bottom, which means that weapon group 1 is now set to chain fire. And when we press the trigger now, only one laser fires. I press it again, and the other one fires. Next weapon group, I'm going to skip the Gauss rifle for now because there's something I want to talk about there in more detail. We'll take the streaks, which are in the left torso. And the way I do it, I like to keep the weapons that I really have to aim precisely with on my 2 mouse buttons, which means in this case this would be the Gauss rifle and the ER large lasers. So I'm going to set the Gauss rifle to weapon group 2, and I already have the large lasers in weapon group 1. And the streaks I have set, since like I said, I'm a lefty, the streaks I have set to the 0 on the numpad, because, you know, I can mash that key no problem. Once I have a lock, I don't have to worry about precisely aiming or anything. I just hold it down most of the time if I'm in a close-in fight or got a target within range, and it'll just fire off streaks as quickly as possible. So I set this one to weapon group 3, go to the right to the 3 column, and move the selector down to the first streak launcher, put it in there, put the next one in there, put the third one in there. Now they're all set to weapon group 3, as you can see. They're all blue. And we also set this one to chain fire. And as you can see again, that little black square is now dripping down top to bottom, meaning weapon group 3 is also set to chain fire. And what we do now is
target
we
acquired.
lock up this little commando. And just press the key, and it'll fire them off continuously. And if I take it off chain fire, all 6 missiles just launch at the same time. Again, this brings up your heat. It might not look like much right now, but if you're in a tight spot, in a tight fight, those few percents of heat might just make the difference between you being able to fight or shutting down.